I always thought, I always thought that Power BI was at quite big risk. I've thought it for a couple of years, right? Because there's just a new way of analytics walking in the door, right? Like there's a new way of doing things which didn't exist prior to 2 years ago. Uh, and I felt like I still feel like they haven't pivoted enough in making it like easy to make it like super easy. They could have give brought out they could I think they could have done so many things with Power BI, like Power BI Lite, or like a version of they had this AI analytics tool that they could have put under the Power BI banner, right? They could have created like a lovable clone and put that under Power Apps, like a Power Apps banner. Like there's so much stuff I feel like they could have done, but they're not doing, and they haven't done. So it's just hard to know why. I don't know. What is your take? That's just
Well,
me.
I mean, yeah, I'm wearing the R t-shirt today because, kind of in honor of Anaconda Code and, what they've done over the past 2 weeks, which is just knocking my socks off. And I think, it gets to that innovation. It also gets back to what you said earlier about Excel being this great front end. Now, Excel is like it's really funny that when I first started working with Power BI, I was like a lot of people, I was like, I'm not interested in Excel anymore. Yeah, and I mean, I testified in court on models I built on Excel. I mean, there was a time years ago when I was all in on Excel. I did all my analysis in Excel. And when Power BI came along, I just kind of discarded Excel. I'm like, I'm not interested in that anymore. And the really interesting thing is I kind of feel like Power BI, I think part of it is, kind of a strategic decision they made about tying it to Fabric. And I don't necessarily want to go down that road. But what I feel is Power BI is kind of getting like eaten from either end. That from one end, it's Excel. I thought Power BI was going to eat Excel. It's turned out to be the reverse, I think, that Excel is getting really, really good at all the things Power BI is good at. And this Anaconda code, has really dramatically increased what you can do in Excel, even beyond what you can do in Power BI now in some cases. And I was working with a friend this morning on a project, and he, in two prompts, he pulled in data from government data, and then in two prompts created like an entire set of visuals, complex visuals. I mean, these were heat maps, they were scatter charts, they were not like just bar charts and pie charts, and they were really scientific visuals, and it was two natural language prompts, and I was just blown away by how good it was. And the interesting thing is you didn't even have to go out of Excel because Anaconda Code includes an assistant. And right now it's tied to Claude 3.5, but I have no doubt that that's going to become, particularly as like the new 4.1 mini is super super cheap.
Yeah.
My guess
Great.
is they're going to upgrade that, and all of a sudden you're going to get a frontier model right in your Excel add-on.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing about it is it's got R and it's got Python. And the crazy thing is it manages the environment so well because like R has 22,000 packages that are out there that you can load, and
Mm.
it flawlessly handles them. And whereas in Power BI that environment is so decrepit, and it doesn't run locally like it does in Anaconda Code, that it runs in the Azure cloud, and they haven't upgraded in 5 years. And supposedly in Fabric it is upgraded, but in Power BI Pro it's not. And so there are whole classes of things you can't do in Power BI. So for example, the grammar of tables is this incredible thing that somebody at Posit developed, and it's kind of like the declarative grammar of graphics that are used for ggplot2, and it just lets you do all kinds of really nice looking tables and matrices and kind of all the things we want to do in Power BI, you can do them in GT, and you can run all that in Anaconda code. You can't run it in Power BI. And the fact that it's just an add-in that just works so well. I'm kind of now back on the Excel wagon, because it's exactly what you said before, which is it's a great kind of MVP, minimum viable product, for developing just apps. That I can pull my data in, clean it, and structure it with them. I can then create drop downs. I can have it call AI from an API within a cell. I can have Anaconda code run Python and R, through these smooth environments. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All really great points. And yeah, it's been fascinating to see the last couple of years, like the evolution of the analytics market. Even though I think we know the limitations of some of the like AI analytics that's coming out, there certainly is a pretty big demand for these AI analytics tools. I was looking, that Julius AI,
Yeah,
they are insanely popular online, insanely popular. Um,
it's a great name, but I don't understand the popularity.
Yeah, well, like for some, they are. I just think there's a big market for this. Like, I actually don't think any tool's going away. You know, there's always going to be a place for Power BI. There's always be a place for Excel. I never believe like one's going to replace another. But there's a lot of new ways of doing things, which is broadening the market, making the market a lot bigger. That's what I think, and I think that's what these AI tools are doing across analytics, across development, across creativity, across a whole range of different things. Hey, I just an interesting thought. What do you think is the product in Microsoft's entire history? As a guess, what do you reckon is the highest ROI product that they have, or have had over time, like return on investment?
That's a good question.
So they have like, for example, Azure is incredibly big, right? Like Azure is the bulk of their revenue now, but is it the
Right.
highest ROI? I'm not sure. Like I was just thinking about this, and I want to sort of gauge your view on it.
When you say ROI, like what do you
So
mean for the
from what they've invested in it to how much
oh
value they've extracted from that single product.
boy, that's a great question.
I don't know for sure. I'm just guessing, but I'm interested to know what you think.
I have no idea what the investment in something like Excel's been, but you've got that on conservatively a billion desktops.
I think
And
it's Excel. I think it's Excel too. I think I read they bought Excel for less than $20 million, maybe 30 years ago or something like that. And so obviously they've invested a lot over time. But you just think how that single product, how sticky that product is within a billion computers or whatever devices, that the return on that one product alone is probably one of the best products ever created in software. Would be my guess. Would be my guess. There's probably others out there, but in terms of return on how much they invested over time, because you've got to think how much have they actually changed Excel in the last 10 years? Like how many people do you actually think are working on Excel right now? Like it's probably less than 100 in Microsoft, probably less than 100 headcount because not much changes, right? I don't think they like to change it too much because people are so locked into how it is set up. And think about how much revenue from a particularly Office 365 perspective is tied to spreadsheets. It's crazy to think about. It's crazy. Like they're probably making over 95% margins on that product, maybe higher. That one product.
yeah, I mean, I remember I was in grad school in 1987, we were using Excel. So it's almost 40 years now. But the crazy thing is, in some sense, I think this is rather than, you always hear, oh, this is gonna, this is the Excel killer, this
Yeah.
is the product that's gonna take Excel's place. And in some sense, I think Excel has gotten stronger.
Yeah.
I have a friend, Aditya Kumar Darak, and he is competing in the collegiate world championships for Excel. And
Mhm.
he showed me some stuff the other day that he's doing with user-defined functions and lambdas and some stuff I don't even fully understand how he's doing it. But the other, I think it was last week, he was competing, and the average finishing time, and these are the best Excel users in the world. Um, the average finish time was like 21 minutes for the problem they were given. He finished
Yeah.
in 10. Um, half the time of the best Excel users in the world. And it's because of innovations and things that, the top people are building in Excel. And then,
Yeah.
they're then kind of percolating that knowledge down on LinkedIn, on YouTube. And, what you can now do in Excel is just mind-boggling. Even beyond the Anaconda code stuff, that there's kind of some robot process automation stuff they're doing, just crazy. We should bring
Yeah.
bring guests on for one of these and just talk with them and have them show stuff because it is remarkable. And for a tool that's 40 years old, I kind of feel like it's in its heyday now.
Yeah. And I just am astounded at the margins they probably have on it. Like that was just it's just an idea that popped into my mind. Like it's not going anywhere. Even in this next wave, I think it's just still going to be so important. So much of business is run on spreadsheets. Even now,
Yeah.
it's absolutely incredible. No matter what the desire of any IT organization or any leader in AI wants, like Excel is still going to be just so dominant in terms of like getting stuff done. People are just so familiar with it. It's just not going anywhere. So those returns are going to continue. I feel like Power BI will be very similar. Like I don't think that the investment in Power BI is anywhere near maybe what it was 8 years ago. And they're going to make huge margins on this product. It's incredible how Microsoft do it. I mean, you got to give them a lot of credit for what they've built. And
I love Power BI, but I find these days like I think they're having some problems, in terms of the latest release like broke a bunch of stuff and it just seems like there's some struggles at Power BI
it's
these days.
because they don't have the people on it. They don't have they're not putting the investment into it. I mean, I think it's as simple as that. I don't I think they've probably got some of the front facing top people still there, but behind the scenes, I don't think any of their best developers are working on this anymore.
Could be,
If I'm being brutally honest.
but the thing you mentioned, Julius AI, which I tried and it just didn't do much for me. But somebody is going to crack that nut and basically have an MCP visualization end that you can plug in. And when
Yeah,
you've got the IDE, your AI model, something like Supabase that already again has really strong MCP connection, and
yeah.
then you plug a visualization tool into it, you've
That's
basically built Power BI.
you're exactly right. I didn't actually think of that. Like, yeah, Superbase has the only MCP that I've actually connected up is to Superbase because I have about 10 different databases in Superbase.
Right.
And by the way, most of them are free. I'm hardly even paying them any subscription. Just shows you how cheaply you can run these things. I think they actually run on top of AWS as well. But you're exactly right. Like MCP is going to enable you to create within an AI like chat experience all of these different things, right? Like if you don't like what output you're getting out of the analytics tool that maybe ChatGPT provides, well, you can go out and maybe there'll be a tool that is expert at that exact thing. And you'll be able to send it out to that and then use it within the ChatGPT environment. It's just crazy to think about what that could become, what that could enable.
Yeah, and that's really where I see, the benefit of MCP is that most of the tools I'm plugging in now do like one thing. Like the
Yeah,
the Obsidian one, it does one thing. It talks to Obsidian, it pulls stuff in and out of, it writes to Obsidian, it reads from Obsidian. That's all it does. But the fact that it does that flawlessly, and every time I don't have to know the name of the individual MCP command. It just knows when I say, search my vault, it knows to call the read tool. If
yeah,
I say, create this note and put it in my vault, it knows to call the write tool.
yeah,
And that I think rather than building these giant models that are intended to do everything, if people are building all these different tools and you can just kind of go to the pegboard and pull down the one you want,
yeah,
I've been having some really really interesting discussions online with Nick DeBart and the author of Practical Charts, and he's very knowledgeable about AI and very skeptical about its ability to really do visualization and save time. And we've having I think a really interesting debate back and forth. And I think he raised a lot of good points that it does let you do some things you wouldn't easily be able to do otherwise, but it still makes enough mistakes and is unreliable enough in the visualization that you have to really rigorously check and validate everything it does. And
Mm.
you definitely, the more expert you are in visualization, the more you can get out of it. And the thing I see as being the real potential in something like that is we're using big AI models to try to do that. And I think when somebody trains a tool and the only thing they train it to do is visualization, I think we're going to see a big leap.
Yes, I totally agree. It's funny, as I've got more into development, I can see how that's actually how software is built in like even individual software. What happens is it's all modular, right? And so you're basically when you're clicking around in say Power BI, for example, and you're bringing in a chart that's basically doing a function call. It's basically doing kind of like an API call. And so all MCP is doing is abstracting that back one bit to this AI model, who is then able to do exactly those things to a lot of a variety of different softwares, and then bringing it all together and layering on some cognition to actually get something done. Honestly, I am just fascinated by this stuff, just totally fascinated. Like the evolution of how this is all playing out. I mean, it is the most fascinating time in my career by such a wide margin. Yeah, it's incredible, absolutely incredible that this is happening. Like this is the possibilities that are opening up.
Yeah,
It's the mother of all inflection points.
it feels like that. And, as I say, every time we get together, and it's like, I feel like we both have like, well, have you seen this? Have you tried this?
Yeah,
Because there's just so much, and the fact that like, as we're taping this, OpenAI is releasing something new every day this week,
yeah,
and, some of it'll probably be great, some of it probably won't be, but the fact that every day you wake up and there's like a new thing and, that everybody else is doing that too. And it was like, you know, I woke up the other day and it was like, there was the Zapier thing and, there was Anaconda code and, every day it's something. And,
yeah,
if you talked last time about the influence of the image generation and, um, you look now, as you say, like Mid-Journey, Google with VO2, Runway, Kling, you know, um, you know, there's so much innovation going on in the creative space too that we don't even, I'm not even really involved in other than, just
I
kind
know.
of running some amateurish, images.
I know. But just think about the market that's opening up. Like all of us might be able to create quite innovative, like video type shorts and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just new markets. The markets are just so huge because it's democratizing the skill level. There's a lot of insights I have here actually that I wanna get your gauge on. So I was listening to a YouTube podcast. It was this guy's become quite he's become quite famous. His name's Elad Gill, I think. He's invested in supposedly a lot of unicorns, and he's done very well. And he said something so interesting, very simple, but I found super interesting. He said he felt AI was underhyped right now. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. Because every man, every person you'll hear is saying that AI is overhyped, right? That everyone thinks AI is overhyped, it's not as good as, but he was like, he was pretty confident in his view, and he's a pretty successful person in terms of investing. And he was like, it's underhyped. You just think about how much AI could be plugged in to all sorts of things within any business right now. We plug in cognition or automation. It's a $5 trillion market initially. $5 trillion. The entire software SaaS market is 500 billion right now. So it's 10 times bigger than that. And that potentially is going to play out over the next 5 to 10 years, right? And that's just the start. That's just pretty much replacing or augmenting what's already going on right now, right? I thought that was really interesting, super interesting, and keen to get your view on that. But the other thing I want to just also add to that is when I look at the cost of my subscriptions, right? I look at it in a couple of ways. One is I may, like, if I didn't have all these subscriptions, I may have to hire someone, right? So they're far less than what it would cost for me to hire someone. That's one. But also, I look at that market. So it's 5 trillion. Like, okay, let's say it's $5 trillion over the next 10 years. Okay, huge market, 10 times bigger than what software is today. The upside potential of paying for $1,000 worth of subscriptions or more, or like even $2,000 of subscriptions right now, to potentially for the potential return if something actually hits or something goes well in the next 10 years. I just think that trade, if you had that trade to evaluate as something that you would do on a day-to-day basis, I would take that every single day of the week. I would take that trade all the time, right? Because the potential market for a tool or services or anything in this thing that's opening up, this $5 trillion market, is so like the potential return if something goes well in the next 10 years is so vast, so vast. Why not pay for every subscription you can get your hand on right
That's the argument I make to my wife. Um, you
now?
know, that um, I look at what I've got, and it's my feeling is if you can save 2 hours a month,
Yeah,
if you cut 2 hours off of your, you know, deliver the same product for 2 hours less a month, you've easily made back the value of all your subscriptions. And that is so easy. I mean, there are days I save 2 hours just in a day.
yeah,
I mean, there are days I really feel like, months I really feel like by the end of the first day of the month, I've more than broke even on
yeah.
everything I pay in subscriptions.
Totally. I feel the same way. And it's not just saving time. I look at it as it's opening up this new world of things you can do. So,
Yeah,
like how can sometimes that's even hard to put a value on, right? Like the value in that is the payoff potentially if something goes well, if something hits, if you like from my perspective, we're building a lot of software right now. What if one of our softwares takes off? Well, that's been generated because I've got all these subscriptions to actually build and learn about how to build software. Like, those subscriptions cost absolutely nothing compared to the payoff if anything goes remotely well right now.
right, right. I mean, that's the thing is you can have a dozen subscriptions, and if one of them really hits in terms of creating something great or saving a ton of time, it pays for all the others.
I don't know.
And
Absolutely.
so yeah, I mean, it's definitely a position of privilege to say, you know, we can slap down, 200-300 a month on, on subscriptions. And I kind of, as I say that, I realize, that is not everybody's experience, but
Mm.
um, you know, from the straight up economic standpoint of it, as I say, it's kind of like, tabular editor that, I pay $100 a year for that. And the first day of the year that I do any DAX, it's like that pays itself back immediately,
Mm.
because when you have a really complex DAX problem you're trying to crack, to me at least, having that tool saves you $100 right on that problem usually.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the the economics of not doing it is almost harder to understand. And I think AI is really kind of making that same case, day by day, month by month.
Yeah. I would say I'm probably up to about 1,500 in
A
AI
month?
a month in just like all things around this AI because I've got like every AI dev tool. I pay extra credits if I run out. Like I just don't even think about it. I've got databases, I've got the highest chat GPT. I've got Claude, Perplexity. I've got everything. I would say it's probably around that
Wow.
right now. I've got Mid Journey. I've got all these other random ones that I've even forgotten about that I wanted to just try out. But they're like all like $20 a month each, you know? It's stupid, but I just see the upside so much. I just think the upside is just so far in excess. You know, it's probably like 100 times what I'm actually spending monthly, right? Like it could potentially be more than that. That I just don't even think about it. I just do not even care. I do not think about it because I'm at that stage in my life where, you know, if something you just got to keep you just got to keep hitting. You just got to keep batting, right? You just got to like keep batting. Even if nine fail, but one goes well, it's still going to be far in excess. It's just like a venture capital firm, right? It's like investing in all these AI companies right now. They know that only two are going to go well, but they're going to be so huge. It's not going to matter. The other ones aren't going to really matter that much. It's kind of taken that philosophy on in a much smaller framing with the subscriptions to software.
It's funny because I've thought not just in a joking way, but in a serious way to kind of connect something to my financial software that can manage my subscriptions because
Yeah,
I have ones that I don't even realize I have. Like the
yeah,
other day, I got a $20 bill for something. I'm like, I thought I canceled that 3 months ago.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and so I I don't even know what I've got anymore. And
Yeah.
it would be I actually thought, I should feed my credit card information, my bill into AI, and have it tell me what I'm paying, what subscriptions I'm paying for.
The amount of donating that I've been doing to software companies and
Yeah.
also my also in New Zealand we have this it's called Sky. It's like our linear TV. It's like what's the main one in the States? Direct TV. It's kind of like Direct TV, but in New Zealand, right? And it hasn't worked for 6 months because the satellite that they had doesn't is subpar performance or something. I can't be bothered sitting on I just can't be bothered sitting on hold um, trying to fix it because everyone's trying to get theirs fixed as well. I'm just donating to them at this point, and but I can't get rid of them because it's the only way to watch sport in New Zealand. This is literally the only way. Just full on
I
donating.
actually, I actually, I redid our whole TV system and everything because in the US, like it's required that you hate your cable company,
Yeah.
and I despised mine. And it was
Right.
not reliable. It was incredibly expensive, and
Yeah.
I got rid of all that. And it was like my favorite day of the year last year when I had to bring all the cable boxes into the
Yeah.
store and just drop them there and say, I'm done.
Yeah.
And what I did is I hooked everything up to YouTube TV,
Yeah.
and it was like a third the price and it works great. So
Mm.
I don't
Yeah.
know, I don't know how it is in New Zealand, but I can do live TV, I can do sports. Um,
Yes. Well, the problem, like in America, you can, and I used to holiday there a bit, and I saw that happening, like playing out over the years. But you can, those big sporting entities have done deals with lots of different people. But the problem in New Zealand is that the sports that I want to watch, which are rugby league, cricket, so these are all popular sports in New Zealand. Literally, these aren't on YouTube. They aren't on Netflix. They're not on these big. They're not on Amazon. They're like a monopoly. These guys have like a monopoly over these sports. So if you want to watch any of them, like if you want to watch the All Blacks, which is the famous rugby team in New Zealand, you have to have Sky if you want to watch it live. Um, and so it's the one thing that is sort of keeping us in. And I've got with my kids, I want to, if I get rid of Sky, well, they're not going to watch sport, and they're not going to have, they're not going to learn what I like, how I sort of learned about sport when I was like watching it and
yeah.
stuff. And so you can't just get rid of these things, even though they're sort of not working that well.
That's interesting, because it's like, that's one of those things I look at here where technology has totally changed the way everybody does it. Like, everybody I know
The
has cut
market.
their cut
The
their
market's so
cord.
huge, yeah. The market's so
Yeah.
huge. Like I have heard that like Amazon have potentially been in talks to buy rights to All Blacks games and things like that. But I think that there's contracts. There's contracts that they have to be exclusive to to these guys. Like even what Sky did in New Zealand is they actually invested in the All Blacks, so they actually had a seat at the table so that they wouldn't lose the rights because
Wow.
they knew how important it was. Um, so it's fascinating. It's quite fascinating. Quite fascinating. But that's just that's just business for you, right? Like you got to somehow have like if you want to have a successful business, usually it's the most un capitalistic type businesses that their behavior is sort of against capitalism principles, right? The best ones usually are. Apple's a perfect example, right? They have like an incredibly closed system that no one else is allowed to build unless you go through their app store and they take a 30% cut.
Right. Right.
It's it's really quite fascinating. Can I get your quick views on some of the? I mean, it's been a pretty crazy time in the markets, like the last like week or so. So I'm keen to just get your view on what the hell is going on with the decisions being made in your hometown, and also just like how that affects so many businesses. I mean, it's just unbelievable how it affects. I mean, the downstream effects, the flow on effects from these decisions is just so vast. It's kind of mind numbing.
Yeah, and it's like I'm hesitant to get into the politics of it, but
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to get into
as
politics either. I don't want to either. This is not the venue, but like just maybe like how it might
I
relate to
mean,
technology or
it was like my training's in economics, and
yeah,
it's like I knew. I mean, I think we all knew that the minute you put big tariffs on, there's going to be retaliation, and that's going to just drive the market down. I mean, it was like gravity. It was like there was nothing surprising about that. And, I just thought, you know, how long are they gonna, keep playing chicken before somebody pulls off the road? And,
mm,
thankfully they did, but, $6 trillion in market value, lost in a week.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and it was totally predictable. It was absolutely predictable. And so, I think it's interesting how, you kind of see the influence of particularly the tech companies, that now the tech companies are exempt from the tariffs.
yeah.
And
I did that. Yeah,
it,
one call and they're exempt.
yeah, yeah. And so
One of the things that I found, like obviously, Trump and his administration, they have a different view on the world. They have a different mandate. They were unanimously voted in, so they can go and do that. Obviously, they're not doing it in. It's hard to know what's real or what isn't, but maybe it's just not all the way they're going about it is very piecemeal. Um, but one thing that I struggle with is why in God's earth are you wanting to um, bring back to America industries which are feeling like they're on the back end, right? Like, a lot of manufacturing is going to be done with robotics and things like that. It's like, why are you not looking forward and investing everything you can into new age industries like robotics and chips and drones and all of this other stuff, like self-driving cars, like all of the stuff that America is like doing pretty well at, like doing amazingly well. Why aren't you doubling down on that? That's been the confusing thing to me. Like it's okay. I think it's fine to have a different view of the world than what's gone on in the past, but it just feels like to me when you sort of just try and triangulate a lot of things that you're reading and seeing online, it just feels like there's so many more bigger things they could be focused on, like clean energy, like energy, like investing in every type of energy creation imaginable. Why not go for fusion, geothermal, clean energy? Like, and why is America not trying to be the best at these rather than trying to drag back jobs that probably no one wants anyway?
and it's like, the idea that even through tariffs from the traditional, 1950s manufacturing is coming back to here is just it ain't happening. And
Yeah.
you know trying to force that is just gonna kind of bring the economy down around it. But there's a callback in that I think is funny in terms of the influence of kind of poorly used AI. And
Yeah.
it was very clear to me that somebody in putting that together just ran it as a prompt through ChatGPT. Because did you see where they imposed a massive tariff on an island that is only inhabited by penguins?
I didn't see that.
There's been endless memes about that, and it's an island I believe off Australia that only has penguins, and they're now facing huge tariffs. And it's kind of like that is that's kind of the outcome of unvalidated AI results.
Oh man, like I know. I don't want to like we had a little bit of a scam in Enterprise DNA the other day, which I don't want to go into, but man, I am there is like look, we love AI and there's a lot of upside, but holy crap, there is a lot of downside which is coming on stream and is just going to get it's scary. It's really scary what AI is enabling for bad actors. It really is. It's not. It's a lot of non-obvious stuff, but it's real. Like there is some bad actors are getting empowered to do things at scale. It's kind of scary.
Well, it was interesting because I know what you're talking about, and that when the image generation stuff for ChatGPT, the new generation that came out, I saw posted online like people were just showing like forged insurance damages, forged sales receipts, and they looked. I mean, this was not kind of the old Nigerian prince
Yeah.
spam scams. This was incredibly realistic. And I got a message the other day that um, just seemed like a sophisticated phishing attempt, and I ignored it. And my financial company actually called me and said, "We haven't gotten your response on that. It was something they needed back signed." And I said, "Oh, I thought that was just a phishing, thing." And I just deleted and ignored it. And they're like, "No, that was actually real." And so
Yeah.
I've gotten to the point I can't even tell sometimes. And I just assume if it looks the least bit suspicious that it's not real.
Yeah.
Because I can't tell.
You're gonna have to second guess everything. It's just an unknown out there. You're gonna second guess absolutely everything. Yeah, like I think that with text and with image gen, right? They're just being empowered. The bad actors are being empowered to do very regular things at enormous scale, right? So email blasts or even I think voice calls soon enough. Like it's just going to be doing a lot. Like it's just be exponentially harder to discover what's good and what's not. Like, look, there's a business opportunity in there somewhere. I don't exactly know what it is, but it's a brave new world for sure. We're gonna.
And the fact that we are so deep into it and we can't tell the difference. It's like,
Mm,
you were talking about kind of the is AI underrated? And I think about it, and I kind of think it is because I look at my friends, and it's they're an incredibly educated group. I mean, I'm the least educated among my friends, yet most of them have maybe tried ChatGPT, when it first came out, and their involvement in it is almost nil. And these
okay.
are these are folks with PhDs. These are highly intelligent, highly skilled people who just aren't using it, in their field. They're not in the data field, the IT field, and it's just not really a thing.
Mm.
And I kind of feel like it's coming for everybody, whether they like it or not. That it's going to influence the way everything is done eventually, and that in that respect, I do feel it's really underrated. Because I
Yeah.
think we're in a bit of a bubble. We talk to each other, we talk to people who are using this every day, almost following it like sports, and that's just not the bulk of the world.
the best way I've been able to frame it in my mind over recent months is this: how many? Just think about cognition. Okay, so all humans like have a we all personally and then collectively have a finite amount of cognition, right? But what if that was just a small part of what could be done? Like how much cognition there could actually be? Could be 100 times. Could be every physical object could have cognition in it, right? It feels to me at this point in time like almost unlimited. Like almost unlimited. How much like as a species we might want unlimited cognition. If we want to become I mean, if you just like think 100 years out, if we want to have the innovations that we could have, an unlimited amount of cognition would be the way to get there, right? Like it honestly would. I just find, I mean, that is scary, but at the same time, just so mind blowing. Like, it's just something that I never would have thought I'd be talking about. Like, it's just so mind blowing what that means and what that does. There will be a bubble in AI at some point, but it's not going to stop the overall trajectory. No way.
I mean, the your point about the economy is a really good one though, because I did hear some really good analysis that said the thing that could really put a crimp in the hose is global recession. Because right now, OpenAI can snap their fingers and get $40 billion. Anthropic did something similar. Ilya Sutskever's new
32
firm
billion.
already has a multi-billion-dollar valuation. The money is just flowing, and part of that has been because of the strong global economy. And
Mm.
if that were to crash, they said that's the thing, that open funding is really fueling this huge innovation. And
Yeah.
that's the thing that a lot of smart people seem to say is the biggest risk, other than kind of military takeover of Taiwan that cuts off the chip supply.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look, I almost have no doubt there'll be some sort of bubble. I mean, just looking at these some of recent valuation. I mean, Ilya Sutskever's rate is valued at 32 billion and he hasn't even built anything. Well,
Right.
he must have a prototype of something. I mean, he's probably built something, but like, there's just no product from what I can see. I mean, that is just astounding. Like,
Well,
absolutely.
same for Mira Murati.
I
When
mean,
she left OpenAI, that
yeah.
I don't think her valuation is what Ilya's is, but it's still multi-billion dollar.
Yeah, I mean it's just absolutely incredible. But look, they were inside the tent with OpenAI. I believe OpenAI could become like worth 3-5 trillion dollars probably. So maybe there's they know the thing that is going to get them there, right? Like they knew the strategy, they knew all the things that they were going to get into. So they probably have solid insights. One of the other things that I heard about this investment wave actually, particularly in the big players is a lot of people like for example Microsoft is putting in a lot of money. Like a lot of these big tech companies are putting in money because they want visibility. It gets them visibility over what's going to be big next, particularly with MCP, right? Like think about how much data these AI companies are going to have about what's popular and what isn't. And so when they see something insanely popular, these big tech companies, because they're inside the tent, they can get all the information. They've got seats on the board. They can extract that information and go and purchase those companies and do that kind of stuff. So this is a pretty standard playbook for large incumbent organizations. It's a smart strategy, right? Like making sure that you have all the information so you can see the next big players. I'm trying to relate it back. Like it was the same similar with the internet, I think. Like Apple knew, like with their marketplace, they knew all the things that were popular, right? And they could copy or they
Right.
could buy out the popular apps when they sort of popped up.
Well, I mean, in some sense, it's the macro version of what you and I are doing with subscriptions. We're spreading $20 over, every company
VC.
out there,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the VC firms are doing the exact same thing.
Totally.
It's like nobody knows in 5 years who's going to be the winning horse, and so
It is almost guaranteed there's going to be a spectacular failure, many spectacular failures. But the
and there's
upside,
going to be somebody probably coming out of the woods that we never even saw coming.
100%, 100%. There's going to be an entirely new wave of software here that is going to be created and has massive opportunities. I mean, it's just absolute foregone conclusion at this point. But there's going to be massive frauds. There's going to be things that fall over. But it's just not going to stop the trajectory. If you just look at the market as how much cognition could you actually create and how could benefit society, I just feel like it's the it's almost unlimited. I heard it's very, very similar, by the way, to AWS. AWS. I read a book or watched a documentary, and they knew internally when AWS started, when it was very small, they knew that it had the potential to be it was almost unlimited, the amount of upside that they had in AWS, right? Because how much cloud could you actually use? How much if you democratize development and enabled it easy for anyone to plug into this, how much software could actually be created? And they knew internally, or they had an idea internally, that it was almost unlimited. And that is exactly how it's played out. It is almost unlimited. And AI is democratizing it even more. So there still is this unlimited amount of software that could get created. Supposedly the big tech cloud businesses, AWS and Azure, are growing insanely fast right now. Insanely
Yeah.
fast.
Well, if
Um,
you think about, I mean, think about, we're going back to the streaming discussion. I mean, you know, the amount of traffic that you're putting through, the cloud just on your Netflix streaming is gargantuan.
yeah,
And
it's true.
then you think about, all the streaming that's developing. Then you think about the mobile apps. You think about, AI and the amount of compute that demands. It's like the winners in this are the cloud
Oh yeah,
companies too.
I think that there was maybe a period where both you and I thought that AI was going to be a bit of a disruptor. I think yes, it is, but in terms of big tech, there's no disrupting big tech. These guys have such a advantage with all the infrastructure that they have, like physical infrastructure, like data centers and all that. I mean, they are just going to get so massive. It's unbelievable. Like they could easily be double the size that they are today, just through like the growth of their cloud business.
Well, the other thing, when you're talking about software, one of the things I always try to remember is we're only seeing half the coin at this point. That there's a hardware side of AI that hasn't even hit the end user.
Yeah.
It's just starting to. That there's a guy on YouTube. His name like Network Steve or something. He's this really knowledgeable, networking infrastructure guy. And he's been showing like how he took, five Mac studios and built something, you know, on his desk that can run the large, 405 billion parameter DeepSeek model.
Yeah.
And we have only started to see the thinnest tail of that dragon because,
Mm.
when the consumer grade, chips and computers start hitting. I mean, I'm running off basically a glorified gaming computer, you
Yeah.
know, and you know, my my office gets hot actually when when I'm really hitting that GPU, the temperature down here goes up, and you know, it's running really hard, and I would say I probably got hardware that is at the 98 percentile of what most end users are running, and it can't, it's still highly constrained. And so I think when we start seeing the custom AI chips and the mini computers that you can easily, kind of string together, kind of the hardware MCP, side of things, that's when we're going to see the other side of the coin. That it's not just the software models getting better and faster, but the hardware running them gets a lot faster.
Yeah. Again, it just flows back to the amount of cognition. Once you start adding it to physical objects, to robots, to cars, to just think about how much cognition is required. It could be layered into society with just these things alone. It's going to be more than what humans could use. It's going to be a lot more probably. Just think about how much cognition within a car you will likely need, right? Like it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And then, one thing that I know that I will invest in straight away when it is actually real is a robot to do household chores. Like I will have, I mean, if it costs me $20,000, right? To think how much time that will save our family on a yearly basis, and just being able to do other things with not having to worry about any of that stuff. I mean, we like if I just weigh up like my cleaning bills and my nanny bills and all that kind of stuff now. Like, I mean, it's just like 100% worth it. I mean, again, it's just like I just see the ROI on that sort of thing so high, and then you just think about that. You extrapolate that out to every part of the economy. I mean, it's just unbelievable how big that is going to be.
Yeah, I've probably watched too many Black Mirror episodes to be
Oh, I do, I do,
enthusiastic about that one. Yeah.
I know, but I watched a couple the other day as well. They take a very doomer view on technology, I have to say.
Well, it was funny because I've been watching, kind of the robot sports, kind of the way they're training robots for kind of natural motion in sports,
Yeah.
jumping, throwing, and that's remarkable. I mean, the other day I saw a robot boxer training against a human,
Oh yeah, I saw that.
and we're totally. I mean, I totally believe we're going to have, you know, robot sports in
Yeah.
the not too distant future.
Yeah. Look, it's very easy to think about those in a negative way, but I've become like a real optimist on everything. Like I think the upside is just so huge compared to the
Yeah.
downside. I mean, yes, there's some really dicey stuff that could happen, but to layer these things into every part of your life, the economy, I mean, I just think it's incredible unlock for for us, for humans, Like I do not want to do the dishes any day of my life. I don't want to do it. I don't even want to cook. I don't want to do laundry. I don't want to do any of this stuff. I want to just focus on building. I want to do stuff I enjoy. I don't want to have to, like, in a lot of cases I didn't even want to have to drive. Like I'd rather just like get in an autonomous car. I really would. Um
I
yeah.
don't anymore, actually.
You don't drive, you don't why? Have you
No.
got a Tesla?
No, I basically just it's gotten to the point where between Uber and then they're bringing Waymo
Yeah.
to
Oh
DC,
yes. Yeah.
with kind of the
Yeah.
automated taxis and stuff, and it's the point where it's not something I ever enjoyed. I'm frankly not a good driver,
Yeah.
and I just now kind of turn that over to technology.
Crazy. Yeah, Waymo. I mean, Waymo, I mean, how big could that be? Like, I mean, that could be as big as Uber at this point.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah, and the cities here that have it, people don't think anything of it.
just incredible,
It's
isn't
just it's
it?
part of the transportation infrastructure.
In just such an incredible time. Yeah, it is amazing. This is one of my just small issues with social media is we're living in a time where we're being given so much incredible stuff, right? But everyone seems to forget it the next day, and then they're complaining about the next thing. They're complaining about the next thing. I mean, that is the sort of stuff that goes really far on social media, but it is kind of crazy, right? Like you think of all the things that we've been able to acquire as a as humans in the last like couple of years, and for most, it's still not enough. It's an amazing thing to think about.
I remember this comedy bit where somebody was saying about like how Wi-Fi on the plane is slow. And it's
Yeah,
like think about what that is you're 20,000 feet in the air,
and you
and
can't run your AI model.
you've basically got the ability to send information anywhere in the world from 20,000 feet over the earth, and we're like, wow, it's really slow. Yeah, I mean, in a way
Yeah.
that's insane. And I kind of feel that way, at times when I'm like, I see the speeds of the new models coming out, and I'm like, oh, that's going to be great because I hate waiting for this thing. You know,
Totally. I
it's like it takes 17 seconds. I'm like, that's interminable. And it is funny how our baseline just shifts.
Oh my God, it does, isn't it? Like yeah, I feel the same way because Claude has been driving me nuts lately. Um, Yeah, because it's so slow and it just does dumb stuff all the time. And like as soon as the faster model comes on, I'm like, oh, thank God, don't have to use that slow model anymore.
Well, yeah, it's like when I was in grad school, and I was studying econometrics, it would
Yeah.
take 17 to 19 hours to run a model once.
Wow.
And and then you get after 17 hours, you would find it didn't converge and you had to respecify it. And so it would sometimes take me like a week to do homework, not because I was putting it off, but because for 5 straight nights, I had to respecify models that were taking, 17 hours. And,
Yeah.
now those run instantly. I mean, in R, I actually found some of the code a while back and translated to R and reran it. And it literally you hit return and it's done.
Mm.
And, you
Mm.
know, you think about that and it's like now we're like, it's too slow.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I
But
know.
I fall into it just like everybody else.
Yeah. You know, the other thing we're not talking about, which I think is going to become more real, is virtual reality too. And I know you're big on this as well. Like, I mean, that is an industry that hasn't even got started, but just think about the cognition that would be required to truly get virtual reality going, like creating virtual worlds on the fly. You know, that is what true virtual reality, I think. It doesn't not having to be every single pixel created by someone, right? Like I think that has absolutely huge potential now that we're in the age of AI too.
You know, I totally, totally agree. And, that is totally a hardware problem,
Yeah.
because AI is now, and we talked about this a while back on one of the episodes that you can now have AI, like Google has one that will create like from one image will create like a real-time virtual world you can explore. And the
Mhm.
problem is that the hardware is just clumsy. I've got one of those Meta headsets and it's really cool. I mean, I can do my work now on, three screens that are each, 30 feet high. And
Yeah.
it's neat. And it's fun to do, but you've got this big thing on your head. And I think there's in the not distant future, it's going to be like wearing a pair of glasses. And when it becomes that, I think that's when VR takes off.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anybody's going to have, concern about wearing a pair of glasses. For those of us that have to do it anyway, it's like,
Yeah.
that's fine.
I feel like there might actually be multi-devices here. I do because I remember, like, I agree with you. Like, I would, most people would prefer to wear glasses for some usage, like using it in some way. But there might be like more immersive VR experiences, where you actually have the proper headset or something like that. I remember seeing, I think it was about a year ago, that famous podcaster was interviewing with Mark Zuckerberg, and they were showcasing the latest technology that they had developed, and it was shockingly real, like shockingly real, how they built the faces and the interactions. It looked like they showed it side by side in this in the YouTube clip. So so virtual reality, I think, is about to get like so real, like so real. Like I think prototypes are already out there. It's just they can't scale these things out enough. Like it's like not enough compute, or you say it's a hardware problem. The hardware is not good enough to run these like full time.
Well, you should pick up, I mean, you pick up a Meta headset for $300 and
Right.
you should do because it's like to see how good the technology is already. Like there,
Yeah.
in
Right.
terms of you're talking about realism, there's one where the guy who did the free climb, I'm blanking on his name in Yosemite. Um, there's a video of him free climbing in the Dolomites, um, and it is literally the most terrifying thing I've ever watched because
Right.
you're in your living room, and yet it feels like you are going to fall, you know, 1,200 feet, to your death, and
Yeah.
it is so real. And that's a $300 headset. It's like, and the resolution is amazing. You look around and it's all 360 degrees. It's as high. There's no point where you turn where it's like the illusion is broken. And you know
Well,
that's what we have now. And
Wow.
it's only going to get, better and better. It's kind of like with AI, everybody says this is the worst it's ever going to be.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
I feel like VR is, the two are going to merge, I think, as soon as they get the hardware problem solved.
How what's like in all of these new industries you need to build sort of like an ecosystem of builders or developers around it, right? How is that ecosystem going? I read somewhere once where it's not going well. Like the incentives to build these things are just not quite there yet. There's not enough people buying apps and things like that. Um, so I don't know, because I haven't used it, so I don't really know. But what's your take on it?
I don't know how profitable it is, but like the Meta headset Meta has it's Meta Horizon. Um, and it's kind of like the Apple App Store, the Android store, and you can buy games, you can buy applications. Like I bought kind of a virtual office thing where I could have my monitors and my keyboard and everything all virtual. And so the infrastructure is there, and it works quite well, but I don't know how many people are using it. It doesn't seem to be kind of scoring on the social scale that AI and other technologies are. But I think that day is coming.
Yeah, you've got to think that it will come if the experience is good enough. The reason why I think, well, one of the reasons why the iPhone is insanely um, popular and successful, one of the reasons is because of their marketplace. Even though Microsoft creams 30% of every app sale, there is still a lot of big businesses and a lot of people making a lot of money building apps, like even today.
Yeah.
And so that marketplace is just um, a huge reason why people keep their iPhones because there are all these apps that they want that they use constantly, and they're it's keeping people on the devices, etc. So you kind of need the same thing in virtual reality to make it a reality, I think.
Yeah, you mentioned the YouTube guy, and he was saying that he's really of the opinion, I'm blanking on his name, but he was of the opinion that glasses are going to replace phones. And I thought it was a pretty smart take because
Mm,
actually there's no reason we need to be dragging a phone around. That if you've got a good input device, and voice is becoming a great input device, it's becoming
yeah,
more and more accurate, easier and easier to use. And in places where voice is not appropriate, you do have these kind of virtual holographic keyboards, which is pretty neat part of the even the Meta environment.
yeah.
And I thought about that, and I thought, boy, I think that's true. That if you had the screen and you had the input, there's no reason to be lugging a little brick around your pocket.
Definitely not. Definitely not. My feeling is that we'll probably have both. Like I think that the cost won't be that much. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. But my feeling is there's room for more tech products. Like I think if you were to ask 10 years ago, would you have um, a laptop, an iPad, an iPhone, and a desktop? You'd probably be like, oh, I don't know, probably don't need all that. But there's just always more room for products that add value, right?
Yeah.
I actually use the computer. I use the internet more on my iPad than I do on any other device. And they didn't exist. When did iPads come out? Like 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's probably room for more. There is probably room for more. Definitely. Definitely. Well, do you want to round off because we've been going for over 2 hours, Brian?
Amazing.
We have
Yeah,
very
yeah,
long,
I think
in-depth. We have long, in-depth podcasts, which is pretty cool.
yeah, I think I hit everything on my list. The memory, the cloak models, 4.1, Excel, Anaconda, MCP,
Yeah.
so
Well, just to round off, we've actually released over the last 24 hours a new tool that we built called No Code.
Oh yeah.
It's knowcode.co, so no code. Um, and yeah, I mean, as you're using some of these tools like Windsurf and GitHub and Lovable, I would be interested to see what you think of it. It's
Yeah, I definitely.
it's basically an AI tool to learn how to code. I built it. I've been working with my developers. It's not a vibe coded app by any means. I built a prototype and then they rebuilt the entire thing their way. Um, that's a sort of new workflow that we've got going on. And I have totally built this for me, totally built it for me, and how I need it, and to help me on my journey. And I know that there's just thousands of others who are on this journey as well. So I'd be interested to get your take. Like, it's just a way to deep dive into every part of your app, every part of your code to actually know what's going on, because there's just no way around that. If you want to build something cool, if you want to build something meaningful, you need to actually know what the AI is doing. You can't just vibe code your way there. So that's why we built it. And I've found it insanely useful. Like, I feel like I've learned more in the last 2 to 3 weeks using it than I had before, like months before, because it actually gave me visuals. I was able to sort of visually see how files interact and how code interacts with each other, and that's some of the hardest stuff when you're trying to learn how to code. So yeah,
I just entered
uh,
my first topic on my list for next conversation.
yeah. It's completely free for the next couple of weeks, so anyone can use it, and we're just going to monitor it and just see exactly how it's used. And I'm sure there's going to be some bugs. I'm sure there's going to be some better ways we can design the experience, but we're just getting it out there. And yeah, would be good to get your eyes on it as well.
Yeah,
How far down the road are you in terms of like building?
you know, it's kind of piecemeal at this point, that I'm getting up to speed on windsurf. I've got Supabase kind of plugged into MCP, but I haven't really explored what it can do beyond kind of the surface level. And so
Yeah,
I'm slowly getting there, but there just aren't enough hours in the day. It's like between some of the other projects and clients I've got, and the learning MCP, and really spending a lot of time kind of down the anaconda rabbit hole over the past couple of weeks. you know I just I'm picking it up slow, but I feel like, boy, if I had another 3 4 hours a day, it's like I could really dive in. It's kind of like what you said. I need a robot to take some stuff away from me.
yeah. Well, there's no better way in my view now these days is just build. So like you find like as you work
Yeah.
on a project, just build. And then the idea with no code is that you plug in your GitHub repo, so you're actually learning while you're building. That's kind of the take. I think this wasn't actually really possible before AI, and that's why what I identified as a possibility. So now like I'm working on about 5 things, but I can actually learn little bits about code as I'm working on all of my little projects. And that's why I'm finding it insanely useful. So yeah, I'm hoping that others do as well, and we'll just see how it goes. I'll be able to report back next time and see how
Yeah,
far.
well, I'm definitely going to dive in because it sounds like something that'll really help accelerate my learning.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to see what you think next time we chat.
Great, great.
Okay, Brian, awesome stuff. Great as always, loved it, and
Really
yeah,
enjoyed it too.
looking forward to getting this out there. Okay,
Yep.
talk to you soon. See you, mate.